guys ready? Yep. Okay. Good evening, everybody. We're going to start our meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. If you could please stand. Okay. Roll call.
Hi, Megan Levine. Hi, Ann Markoulis.
Angela Ramo.
Maria Venuto.
Leah Leone.
Okay, so there's 5 of us here tonight. So we'll start with approval of the minutes. Can I get a motion? Ann and Angela, any comments on the minutes?
I was not here.
You were not here? Yes.
Correct.
No? Good? Okay. So all in favor of approving the minutes? That's 4 and 1 abstaining. Okay, committee reports we're not doing tonight, so that brings us to the superintendent's report.
So good evening. Really, my report's going to be very short. Parents have been already asking what teacher their child is getting. Those letters were mailed out today, and so they should be receiving that information tomorrow, Friday, no later than Saturday. If you have any questions, please feel free to give your building a call on Monday if you have not yet received your child's class. Okay? And the start of school is right around the corner. I know we have a number of activities next week with some of the principals and the students coming in at the high school, the barbecue. At some of the elementary schools, we're having popsicles and orientation. So, you know, the thrill of a new year has begun. And it seems like just yesterday we closed the 23-24 school year, and now we are off for the 2024-25 school year, and looking forward to a great year. And that is the superintendent's report.
Thanks, Maria. Okay. Go ahead.
We have the school calendar that's being printed. We're on time. It usually comes out the end of August, the beginning of September, but it also has been posted on our website. So if there's any questions, if you want to begin to look at the 24-25 calendar, please go onto our website and explore the activities that have already been planned. Just as a FYI, we are no longer using our school app. We will be moving forward with something new, and that will be posted and announced to Glen Cove School District parent and community. So at this point in time, please note that your app is not functioning properly because it is no longer being supported.
Thanks, Dr. Arana. Okay, our student board member will be joining us once the school year starts, I believe. So moving on to public participation, any agenda items that a member of the public would like to comment or question about? No? Oh, I'm sorry. It's public participation for agenda items, if you have anything. You don't have to, unless you want to. Okay. Yep, sign in.
Janet Blatt, McGrady Street, Glen Cove. I almost never look at this, and I happened to see online on the website something that caught my interest. Under personnel, the appointment of school counselor transition guide. Want to tell me what that is?
Andrew will handle that.
Sure. One of our school counselors came back to help the school counselor who was just appointed to go over the systems, go over the caseload, and give appropriate guidance now that that counselor is going to be taking over that student caseload for this upcoming school year.
So they're transitioning from someone who left, and they're making sure that the transition is a smooth one. And so she will be here to give the new counselor information so that the new counselor can start the year off with appropriate information as the school year begins.
I do have a question, but I am not going to put this on the floor. I don't want to instigate something. Is that person going to be working with that person for 1 day, 2 days, a week, off and on during the semester?
The resolution proposes for 1 day.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, I think that's it for public participation at this point. We'll move on to the instructional report.
Based on the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, I ask the Board of Education to approve Agenda Item 7 on the instructional report A, B, C, and D. A, Committee on Special Education, B, Committee on Preschool Special Education, C, Adoption of Code of Conduct, and D, Adoption of the Counseling Plan.
Okay, can I get a motion? Megan and Ann? Any questions on this? All in favor? 5? Okay, thank you.
Upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, a motion is requested for the approval of Agenda Item 8, Business Affairs B, Operations 1 through 10.
Can I get a motion? Leah and,
Yeah. 10 is a walk-on, as amended.
as amended. Okay, yeah.
Sorry.
Thank you, Rita.
Did they vote on that one yet?
No, we have to do that. All in favor? 5.
Okay. The walk-on is actually a donation by a community resident and a former student who has collected some school supplies for our students. And I want to thank Evangelia Markoulis for her efforts. Once again, she has done this over the years as well in supporting our students as we start the new school year. Along those lines, though, I think it's a perfect reminder that tomorrow is the backpack giveaway at the high school, sponsored by Delia DeRigi Witten and the Nassau County Police Benevolence Association. So if you are in need of a backpack, backpacks will be given out starting 12 o'clock
Okay. At the high school, right?
at the high school, yes.
Okay. All right. Moving on to personnel.
Based on the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, I ask the Board of Education to approve Agenda Item 9, Personnel A Certified, items 1 through 7.
Motion, Angela and Ann. Any discussion? All in favor? 5.
Based on the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, I ask the Board of Education to approve Agenda Item 9, Personnel A Certified, item 8 as amended.
Motion, Megan and Ann. Questions? All in favor? 5.
Based on the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, I ask the Board of Education to approve Agenda Item 9, Personnel A Certified, items 9 through 11.
Motion, Leah and Angela. Any discussion? All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay.
Based on the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, I ask the Board of Education to approve Agenda Item 9, Personnel A Certified, item 12 as amended.
Can I get a motion? Ann and Angela. Any discussion? All in favor? That's 5.
Based on the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, I ask the Board of Education to approve Agenda Item 9, Personnel A Certified, items 13 through 16.
Motion, Angela and Ann. Any discussion? All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay.
Based on the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, I ask the Board of Education to approve Agenda Item 9B Classified, items 1 through 13.
motion? Angela and Megan, any discussion? All in favor? 5.
So 9B classified included a retirement of an employee who has been dedicated to our district for many, many years, Ms. Kathy Cook. So we want to thank Ms. Kathy Cook for her years of service and her dedication to our children, and she will absolutely be invited to our June retirement ceremony this upcoming June of 2025. But definitely want to take a moment and thank Ms. Kathy Cook for all that she's done for the district.
Thanks to Ms. Cook. Okay, thank you. Unfinished business, I don't believe we have any new business. No. Any board comments? Hi.
Hi. Okay, so yesterday I was on a Zoom call. It was supposed to be with Congressman Swazi, but he was at the Democratic National Convention, so it ended up being with one of his staff members, Brent Katz, who gave us an update on what Swazi has been working on and things that the school boards would like to see pushed through Congress, and things that are important to us. So it included mostly board presidents or vice presidents, as well as Bob Vecchio, he's the Nassau-Suffolk.
Yes, executive director.
Yeah, and someone else from NISBA, I can't remember her name. I'm sorry, I was really bad at all these people.
Catherine Romano.
So it wasn't a huge group. They want to meet in person another time. But what we talked about was the foundation aid formula, how the Rockefeller Institute is giving the recommendations by December 1st, and then the governor will make a decision. Special ed, people were saying that the formula doesn't take into account student needs, because some students need a lot more services than others, which ends up being more costly. So how to make some kind of formula that can take that into account. And they want to bring federal funding up to 40%, but I missed what that was about, but that sounded good. And we were talking about electric buses, how a big problem with electric buses is the lack of infrastructure as far as charging stations, places to keep them, the expense for each of the districts, how they would replace an entire fleet or retrofit buses with the engines, or however it works. I'm not good at that. So they were talking about if the government could provide some kind of funding source if that is going to be a required thing. They were also talking about, and I'm going to get this wrong as well, adjusting for the poverty rate with ALICE, poverty index, taking the ALICE, I don't know what that's called,
The ALICE measure. Which
more accurately shows the levels of poverty in the community, I believe.
Yeah, so part of the foundation aid investigation is also looking at what other types of measures can you utilize to better assess and better provide for equity among all school districts. And the ALICE measure is one of them.
And then the last thing that they were talking about was E-rate funding, which has to do with the funding for technology, devices, cybersecurity, AI, and how they'd like to have more training for the teachers, but he's afraid that this is going to be an area where there will be cuts, so how to preserve this so we can have as much support with the cybersecurity and training as we can have. So this is a conversation that seems like will be ongoing. We shared emails, and like I said before, they want to meet in person, so I imagine more people can go, and it was good. I was distracted, so I'm sorry for missing some of this stuff, but it seemed really good, and there was a lot of input, especially about special ed and how that can be beefed up, because it seems to be a problem everywhere, and needing more funding for that.
Yeah, both on the federal level and the trickling down of funds into the state. We also want to change the rate for preschool reimbursement, because right now it's so low that many of the preschools have shut down because they can't afford to run programs, and it's a shortage of placements for students. Last year alone, I think there were almost 300 pre-K students who had not been able to acquire appropriate placements for services. Yeah. So on Long Island alone. So I'm glad that these conversations are happening at different levels, both state and federal. I was actually on a call this morning with the commissioner's office with some of the same topics. And she's working very closely with the governor to provide input and suggestions so that, again, I think the philosophy is the more they hear it, the more they realize it's a real issue that they need to deal with, and that it's not just one region in New York, but the state of New York. Although they may have slightly different concerns, the concerns are there.
Is that it, Angela?
Yeah.
Does anybody have anything else they want to comment on or share? No? Okay. All right, in that case, we will move on to the last public participation, where non-agenda items. If you just go in and sign in with Ida and state your name and address when you get to the podium, please.
I hate to put a pin in the balloon and burst it in your face, but, oh, please, Janet Blatt, McGrady Street, Glen Cove. For years, starting in early 1991, ancient history, through now, I have followed Tom Suozzi and how he reacts to things and what he's done. So first let me say that this district being screwed on foundation money for years, people in the state fell back on, well, that's the Gold Coast. Well, it's not that people didn't call Glen Cove the Gold Coast before Tom became involved in local politics, but he promoted it. Maybe it made him feel good. He lived on the Gold Coast. Who knows? All I know is it didn't do us any good financially. I also know from in-meeting contacts and face-to-face with him over the years that if you cannot convince him that there is something good, like lots of votes, that will come to him, his people will listen to you, and they may sound good. I've spoken to many of them over the years that he's been in Congress. They sound really good. I never see a whole lot coming out of that, which means they tell him, and it doesn't interest him. You really have to, and whoever else sits down with a follow-up meeting, convince him that there are votes all over his district that he will lose if he's got them now, or he won't get them if he's never had them, if he doesn't produce. So you need to have priorities, because he's not going to give you even close to everything. Maybe you get one thing. Decide which is the most important thing. His daughter was educated right through in the Glen Cove school system. His boys were not. His boys went off to, I don't know if the older one went here at all. The middle one went, I think, to middle school. Tom really paid very little attention to their education. That was Helene's responsibility. And he said that at a Meet the Candidate night when he first was involved in the primary to get the nomination for the congressional seat. So you need to know who you're talking to and what really interests him. And quite honestly, in all the years, I have never heard him say anything that would tell me that he was really interested in education. So set it up, talk to people before you sit down and meet, and, you know, hope for the best. But I've decades worth of, I don't have any hope from him.
Okay. All right. I think, if anybody has anything they would like to ask or comment on, this is our last public participation. Okay, doesn't look like anybody wants to come up and do that, so I think I'm going to move for adjournment. Can I get a motion? Leah and Angela, all in favor? That's 5. Okay, thank you, everybody. Have a good night.
Exactly.